Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel, The School of Love. My name is Maria, and I am helping people discover their inner potential for love towards oneself and towards the others. Today, I am inviting you to a new episode from the series, What I Wish I Knew When I Was Younger. And today I'm going to talk about the meaning of love, as this is one of the things I really didn't understand when I was younger, and I wish I had understood it back then. Anyway, better than growing older and wiser while going through a lot of challenges and suffering. As you know, love is a very complex phenomenon which entails countless elements. In this video, I shall refer to 5 dimensions, which I wish I knew sooner related to love. Number 1, self-love is not selfishness. While it seems that girls are more prone to think like this, that self-love is selfishness, based on an educational heritage still very gender segregated, boys might fall into this trap as well. Ever since we start to see the world and the grown-ups around us as something and someone different from ourselves, we are taught that putting oneself ahead of the others is selfish. But self-love and selfishness are 2 very, very, very different things. The psychiatrist Erich Fromm defined self-love as an intrinsic part of love, as the productive orientation of the psyche, an active and creative relatedness of man to his fellow man, to himself and to nature. He stated that if I can say I love you, I say I love in you all of humanity, all that is alive. I love in you also myself. Self-love in this sense is the opposite of selfishness. The latter is actually a greedy concern with oneself, which springs from and compensates for the lack of genuine love for oneself. Love, paradoxically, makes us more independent because it makes us stronger and happier. Yet it makes me and us one with the loved person to the extent that individuality seems to be extinguished for the moment. In loving, I experience I am you, and you, the loved person, you, the stranger, you, everything alive. In the experience of love lies the only answer to being human, lies sanity. This quote from the Sane Society finds its continuation or deepening meaning in The Art of Loving, where Erich Fromm contended that Western society has been influenced by the Calvinist belief that we are basically sinful, and thus self-love was considered sinful. But since the Bible says, love thy neighbor as thyself, how can loving your neighbor be a virtue and self-love be a vice? You are part of humanity as worthy of love as the next person. Many kind or religious people are able to love others, but unable to love themselves. They believe that having a high regard for themselves is indulgent, conceited, arrogant, or selfish. The opposite is true. The greater is your love of self, the greater will be your love of others. The inverse, though, is also true. Hatred of others is indicative of self hatred. Number 2, loving someone else does not mean possessing that person. Again, I go back to Erich Fromm and quote from his writings. Productive love always implies a syndrome of attitudes, that of care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. If I love, I care. That is, I am actively concerned with the other person's growth and happiness. I am not a spectator. I am responsible, that is, I respond to his needs, to those he can express, and more so to those he cannot or does not express. I respect him, that is, according to the original meaning of respicere, I look at him as he is, objectively, and not distorted by my wishes and fears. I know him. I have penetrated through his surface to the core of his being, and related myself to him from my core, from the center as against the periphery of my being. Number 3, in loving someone, one must learn the subtle art of letting go. Everything is temporary. Nothing is eternal. The only constant of life is change. In Buddhism, they say the source of all suffering is attachment, and Erich Fromm referred to attachment as an unhealthy way to relate to someone else. Erich Fromm stated that in the realm of feeling, the productive orientation is expressed in love, which is the experience of union with another person, with all man and with nature, under the condition of retaining one's sense of integrity and independence. In the experience of love, the paradox happens that two people become one and remain two at the same time. Love in this sense is never restricted to one person. If I can love only one person and nobody else, if my love for one person makes me more alienated and distant from my fellow man, I may be attached to this person in any number of ways, yet I do not love. Related to number 3, we are living nowadays very, very, very long lives. Our ancestors could probably not even dream of such longevity as the one we are enjoying nowadays. Statistically speaking, most of us will live way beyond the 100 years mark. Our children will probably live even longer. Nevertheless, it is an act of loving care to remember that eventually we all end with the same final act, death. The Stoics refer to this permanent awareness of death as if it could occur at any moment as memento mori. And the power of love towards oneself and towards others resides in this painful yet vital awareness of our own ephemerality in the midst of the transient universe. Finally, it is crucial to learn to expand your love, as my love too, to everything surrounding us. The sky, the clouds, the food I am enjoying, the music I am listening to, the movies I am watching, everything. A life lived in the spirit of loving everything develops in the spirit of loving one's destiny, or what the Stoics and later on Friedrich Nietzsche called amor fati. Seeing everything happening as at least necessary, if not as good, leads to a greater acceptance of one's mortality and biological finality. In this radical acceptance lies the strength to live in the present moment, while learning from the past and actively moving towards the future. When we can accept ourselves as the transient beings that we are in the middle of the impermanent universe, We can also accept the others as our absolute equals in their radical otherness, or altérité radicale, as Emmanuel Levinas has put it decades ago. The consequence of such a liberal attitude in the name of love, as love of and for everything, is a world more free and more benevolent, dynamic and spontaneous, without being superficial or toxic. And that would be it for today. Thank you for joining me today, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you again very soon. Love and peace to you all.